Today we conclude the section on leadership in First Peter chapter 5. And as we saw, Peter in this section is calling on elders who are among God's people to shepherd the flock of God a certain way. He says that they are to shepherd the flock of God among them, exercising oversight, and then he gives three contrasts. Negatively, they are not to do it under compulsion. Positively, they are to do it willingly, as God would have you. And negatively, they are not to do it for shameful gain, using the flock for their own gains, but positively, they are to do it eagerly. And as we saw last week, negatively, they are not to do it domineering over those in their charge, but rather they are to be an example for the flock, an example to the flock in the way that they live, in the way that they conduct themselves. When leaders live among the people they are leading and model godly leadership among them, they win respect. And Peter, in concluding, shows us that this kind of leadership gains power in the heart of those who are called to lead when they set their eyes on eternity. When they set their eyes on eternity. So they are shepherding and leading in light of the second coming of Christ. He says in verse 4, and when the chief shepherd appears. So a few things to note here. You are to shepherd God's flock until the chief shepherd appears. That is to say that your leadership and our leadership over God's people is temporary. And our leadership over God's people is a leadership that is subject to the chief leader. There's a chief shepherd. We are under shepherds. We shepherd God's people as under shepherds under one great shepherd. And Peter calls him here the chief shepherd. Here he is referring, I believe, to Jesus Christ. The true shepherd will appear. So we are to shepherd God's people today, knowing that the true shepherd will appear. And when he appears, he will appear to judge. He will appear for us to give account. We are going to give account to him how we led his people. Did we lead his people under compulsion? Did we lead his people for shameful gain? Did we lead his people by domineering? Those who lead this way, when the chief shepherd comes, he will condemn them into utter darkness, in the place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. But those who lead God's people willingly, eagerly, and modeling for the people of God true godliness, when he comes, when he appears, Peter says, you who led that way will receive the unfading crown of glory. Note that the leadership, the kind of leadership that Peter calls for here, the kind of willing leadership, eager and exemplary leadership, may not always win us crowns in this life. If anything, this kind of leadership can actually bring suffering. But if it brings suffering, we know, don't we, that the chief shepherd himself suffered. Peter had witnessed the sufferings of the chief shepherd who shepherded willingly, who shepherded eagerly, and who gave the best example that we could ever have. He suffered in leading that way. And if he did, we will suffer if we model our leadership after his. He received on earth not the crown of glory, he received on earth the crown of thorns, and we cannot follow him and expect the crown of glory here. We should expect nothing but the crown of thorns in this life. But our story as leaders, even if we are not crowned with glory in this life, that story will not end with that. If we continue in willing, eager, exemplary leadership, we will receive the unfading crown of glory. We should not seek to crown ourselves in this life. We should wait to receive. We should wait to receive the unfading crown of glory. Now, a question is, who are we to receive this crown from? Peter just says, when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. From whom? I think that when Jesus appears, this chief shepherd, will be rewarding the under shepherds and he will crown them. He who received the crown of thorns in this life, and apart from outside of that, and as a result of that, was crowned with glory for all of eternity. When he comes back, he will crown under shepherds who shepherded willingly, eagerly, and as examples, he will crown them with glory. When we receive it from him, it will be amazing, wouldn't it? Wouldn't you want to be crowned by the God of the universe, by the one who created all things, Jesus Christ, the great shepherd? Wouldn't you want to be crowned with the crown of glory by this great one? And that crown, Peter tells us, it will be unfading. It will never pass away. Why should we, trade this unfading crown with fading glory? Seeking glory from men and from women on this earth. No, we should not do that. We should not trade the unfading crown from the hands of the chief shepherd for fading glories of this life. When we shepherd God's people well, when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. This should be a motivation for us, dear leaders. Wouldn't it? This is a promise that stands true for every leader. When you are tempted to force your people to do things, when we are tempted to seek shameful gains, let us look beyond this life and say, I am not going to pursue shameful gain that will fade away. I am going to wait for the chief shepherd to reward me with the crown of glory. He will give me glory. He will crown me with glory. I cannot trade that for shameful gain. I cannot trade that for domineering people in this life and getting things done my way. Oh, let us let this future reality shape our present leadership, that we model through exemplary leadership and willingness and eagerness in leading God's people, because we are looking to the reward that awaits us at the second coming of Jesus. Let us shepherd, let us lead in light of the second coming of Jesus. It is this kind of leadership, it is this setting of our eyes on the future that will make us lead powerfully, exemplary, and willingly and eagerly in this present age. Oh, God, help us as we wait for the chief shepherd. In his name, amen.